everyone, what's up? So as you saw in the thumbnail, we are going to take apart this old GM 67 Pontiac AC / heater box, right? Clean it up, paint it up, fix it up, and see what we can do. There's a few rusted parts on this thing. I may have to figure out what brackets I need to make for it so I can get it to work, or see if there's any even available. You know, the heater core, I'll show you here, is split. You know, damaged. Looks like it got, it blew out, you know, due to some water was left in it, you know, and it froze. You know, so I'll kind of flip this thing around and, you know, show you what this thing looks like, and then we'll start ripping it apart and see what we got. Before I do all that, though, I'm going to take a bunch of stills of this thing just to make sure, you know, when I go to put it back together, you know, that I can remember how it goes. So anyway, let me take a bunch of pictures and then we'll walk through what this thing looks like and we'll start ripping it apart. All right, you can see this nice big bulge here, right there, from where the heater core basically expanded. I'm assuming that was due to, you know, water being in here and it froze and expanded or something. So we'll have to peel this thing out and take a good look at the heater core and see what kind of shape she's in. You know, you can see here, you know, we got this seal is pretty much garbage. Let's flip this thing over. You can see just a lot of rust in general in here. We'll take this all apart and treat it, clean it up, sandblast it, paint it. This seal here is garbage. You can see what I was talking about, right? This, you know, bracket here. I'm not sure what this is supposed to look like. Looks like this may just be a piece that extends out that you like slip something into, so it kind of engages. You know, the door is at least free. The other door in here is free. You know, these springs are in decent shape. You can see, you know, this stuff isn't all rusted too terribly bad. You know, we can paint or powder coat, you know, these parts here, so they look good. Same with the door. You know, you can see here that's broken, so we'll see what we can do to get some epoxy this back together, so that when, you know, this arm moves, right, when the arm moves there, it, you know, won't re-break this. Looks like the screw head here is broke off as well. You know, so we'll have to see what that goes, what I can do with this. I can epoxy it, drill out a screw here. You know, so we'll just have to take this thing apart. You can see here again, this is rusted. I'm assuming this was fastened to this, you know, so this thing is kind of broken off, so we'll see what we can do here. You can see again, this is rusted off. So we'll see what we can do to salvage this piece and reuse it. Again, we'll clean it up, paint it up, you know, make some new seals for this thing. You know, again, this door here is free at least. So, you know, if we take all the screws and rip this thing apart, see what we can do. Looks like a couple screws here. We can take off this air duct. And, you know, we'll just take this thing apart in general, and then we'll see what we got. And then we'll, like I said, we'll take a bunch of stills and then rip this thing apart and kind of assess the damage and what we can do. All right, guys, so we're a little further along in the disassembly process here. And here's a little better look at the heater core bulge there. Now she decided to kick out. You know, she's just a nice old brass heater core. We'll have to see if we can test it and see if it leaks or not, you know, sometime here in the future when we go to put it back together, if I'm going to order a new one, or see if this 50-plus-year-old one will work. Yeah, set it aside over here. Here's the two, by the way, brackets that held it in. You know, this one's a little worse for wear, but we'll sandblast it and see how she looks, if she'll still work or not. You know, she's starting to come apart here pretty good. The other one looks to be in much better shape. This one should clean up really good. The springs are all in good shape. You know, this bracket here is in good shape. But notice, you know, there was a critter living in here at some point. You know, the good news is the doors are, you know, sandblastable and usable. You know, we can paint them up, put some new, you know, felt, or make a new seal for this area. You know, this foam piece is actually still in pretty good shape, and probably get a new foam piece and put it in here. You know, I just need to figure out how to get these, get all these doors out. I got to pop these couple clips off here, so here and here, so that way I can get this out of the way and figure out how to detach this from this door. So anyway, guys, let me figure out how some of this is going to come apart. But first, I'm going to clean some of that crap out of the way, and then we'll pull this out. Oh, that looks like that's riveted in. Same with here. So it looks like I may have to drill a couple rivets out so I can pull, you know, this part of it out. And then we'll see what happens. So anyway, let's let me do a little cleanup here, and you can see all the crap that's come out of this so far. Oh, there's where that one went. So we'll clean up, take the shop vac, clean some of this up real fast, and see what we can do to get that apart. All right, guys, so we've got it pretty much all disassembled. I think there's one door left in here yet. For the most part, you know, everything's in pretty good shape. I noticed there was some damage here. You know, the box got broken right in this area, so we'll have to maybe take a little epoxy this area. I noticed, you know, when I went and took this apart, basically this piece here, you know, attached right there, and the screw came out. You know, you can see there was like a little split here, little crack there, and then it took out part of this where the screw goes in. So we'll have to get some like epoxy and kind of mold this a little bit, maybe put like a small steel sleeve around it, fill this full of epoxy, and then just drill a hole down in it, and that way you know, we can run the screw down, do something like that. So we'll figure something out for this. Obviously I'll need to fix this up a little bit. You can see this piece rusted out and this piece rusted out. So see what I can do to drill this little bracket off, make a new bracket. Otherwise, you know, this piece is rough, but I think she'll clean up. I just need to make that new bracket there. You know, here's the other half of it, right? And other than there is a few, you know, bad spots, and there'll be some pitting, but we take this seal out here. You know, we can sandblast this piece again, or, you know, powder coat it or something, and then, you know, clean it up and paint it. Here's one of the doors. You know, this is where this was broken over here. So I was able to just slide this out. We'll sandblast this whole thing and paint it. This is actually in pretty good shape here. You know, so we'll clean this up. Well, this seal is actually in really good condition. So I'll probably clean this area up, tape it off, just paint that area, and then just clean this up a little bit. Otherwise, it's in good shape. Both of the vacuum, you know, motors, I guess I'll call them, are in good condition. Overall, you know, this is in pretty decent shape. Yes, it's going to need a little repair, but overall not too bad. So I think I'm going to call it a night tonight, and then we'll peel some of these seals off, sandblast some of this stuff off, sandblast some of that stuff and whatnot, and then start doing some of the repairs to this while I see what I'm going to do about that heater core. All right, guys, so I figured I'd give you a little update where we're at. So I had sandblasted, you know, these parts here, and actually in this area I've got some tape here to protect because of the seal. And so what I used is some Rust-Oleum rust reformer, you know, on these parts first, and that's why this looks a little more flat and this looks a little more satiny. And then I top coated them, you know, with the satin spray paint to give them a little bit of rust protection too. And so what I need to do now is do this part and do this part. And I actually found the cover. I didn't think I had it here, but you can see here's the outside cover, you know, that was used. And I'm gonna have to take the blower motor out, you know, sandblast this thing up real good. You can see, I think this got broke. I gotta look at a picture to see if this is good. But you can notice here, right, a bunch of rusty parts and a lot of overspray from where somebody else had painted this vehicle. So I'm gonna rip this thing apart and sandblast it, and we'll paint it up as well and get this thing good to go. So here's one of the, you can see plastic ducts here again, all, you know, painted up. So we'll take this apart and clean it and get all this ready as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, we'll sandblast all this up, get it all cleaned up, use the rust reformer on it, get it top coated, and then we'll box it all up until, you know, we start working on the body shell. And here's where basically, you know, this door here, took a wire brush, tried to knock off as much as I can off this door. So I'm going to clean it now, and then I'll hit it with the rust reformer here in a moment, see if I can get a little bit more in there. I might try to take a drill and the wire wheel on it and see if we can get it cleaned up a little bit better. But what I'm going to do is when I get this all cleaned up and fixed up and all those other parts painted, I'm going to use this, some quick weld, which has some steel reinforced epoxy in it. And I'm going to take like a steel, I have some steel round tubing, some real small stuff. I'm going to make a small little steel round tube over this, break out a couple more broken pieces, and then basically take this epoxy, fill this whole thing. I'll put a piece of tape down here so it doesn't come out through the bottom hole opening. Fill this whole thing up real good, and then I'll just drill a new hole in it so we can put the screw down in there, you know, that attaches this piece, which I haven't even messed with yet. So that's how I'm going to be repairing this, and I'll show you guys how I do this, and we'll show you how it turns out. All right, guys, so remember this bracket I was talking about a few minutes ago. You know, you can see that piece is rusted off and that piece is rusted out as well. Basically, this is the little bracket I need to make. So I found a picture online, and I'll show you that picture right here, what it looks like. And what I need to do is I took, you know, a piece of an old cereal box, Cheerios box, made a little template here, and it kind of fits, as you can see, like so. So there's kind of the hole up there, and I'm not going to drill this hole out yet until I actually know where I need to drill it, because I took a guess there. But this is actually, you know, you can see oblong, right? So it looks like, you know, depending on where this goes, then this is, you know, where you can tighten that fastener up. So this is the little bracket I need to make. So I took my wire drill, you know, wire wheel on my drill, clean this, a lot of this gook up, and you can see the two spot welds there and right there that I need to drill out so I can remove this bracket here. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these out, take this bracket off, and then use my little template with a scrap piece of steel, make up a bracket, spot weld it back on. You know, before I spot weld it, I'll clean the rest up real good, spot weld it on, and then, you know, primer this whole thing. Actually, what I'll probably do is primer the whole thing good, and then, you know, come to the back side and then just, you know, tack it in, and then, you know, spray paint the whole thing real good with the rust reformer, and then top coat it to protect it, you know, best I can. So that's what we need to do to fix this. And then we'll go over to the case where we need to make a bracket that's rusted out as well. All right guys, so now I need to try and reproduce this piece a little bit. See what we can make. So I got to grind this off and this off. These are the two pop rivets. So I'll take that out, and then we'll see what we can make here, because obviously this latches over top of another piece. And this I don't think is going to work, so we're going to make a new one. So yeah, let me rip it off, and then we'll see what we can come up with. All right guys, as you can see, I've got the little piece of aluminum here. You know, I've got this piece of scrap steel, so I can try to duplicate this. Basically, I took a punch, laid it right here, and just took a hammer and started doing a little hammer forming. So what I'm going to do is just work this all the way down. So I'll now take the clamp, set it here, and just kind of work my way down this whole piece. And then what I'll probably do is take like a nail or something, put the nail here and here, and then hammer form on either side of it to kind of make this. Now what this is supposed to do is help make it a little more rigid and not as flimsy. So we're starting to create, you know, this feature right here, right now. All right guys, as you can see, same logic applies, right? What I did is I clamped this in place. Just put that nail there, and I got a different punch, a smaller one, and basically set in there, hammer formed it again. It's not perfect. I'll clean this up a little bit more, and then we'll do another one right here to get that same effect. So you can see the old piece versus the new piece, how it's looking so far. All right guys, so to get some of these different shapes now through here, what I did is I put it up on this 1/8 inch plate, went like that, and then took the hammer along here to help shape it and to get that shape. And then to get this shape, that gave me this shape here, all right? And to get that shape, what I did is I came down here, set it on the edge like this, with it overhanging a little bit, took the hammer, and then bent it back over, if you will. So I set it here, and that's how I was able to get it to kind of kick back out to give it, again, that rigidity and that shape. So basically, right, I set it on here with the aluminum, did this, then used the nail, a little hammer forming, right? And then brought it up here, shaped it like this, and then brought it down here, shaped it like that. And that's how I was able to, as close as I can, reproduce this piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and grind all this paint off, you know, so I can clean it up, and I'll probably round the edges a little bit. So that way, you know, take some of these sharp edges off, and then we'll go ahead and reproduce these holes real quick, and then we can pop rivet this piece back on once it's painted. Guys, so you can see, here's that bracket that I made up on this piece. Turned out really good. Got it spot welded in. I'm gonna go ahead and paint it and top coat it now. I don't have this drill, you know, out yet, right? Because I'm not sure where to drill it. So until I bolt this all up, figure out where I need to punch that hole through, you know, I'm gonna leave it blank. But we're gonna go ahead and top coat this thing to protect it. And I'll show you the other bracket here in a second too. So here's the other bracket, guys. You know, she's all painted up, so I'll need to pop rivet this in here soon. But you know, you can see it's got a couple of broken areas that I need to glue up yet. So I'm not gonna, you know, pop rivet this in place yet until we do some more repairs to it. All right guys, so this is, you know, where there's a screw that goes through the center there, and you see it's all busted up. So if you notice the little blue there, I put a piece of tape, you know, on the bottom side so the epoxy doesn't go down in. Took a little piece of painter's tape here, made a circular area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this up, and I'm gonna go slightly over the top too. So if I need to, I can file it down. But I wanna make sure I get a good epoxy fill in there, you know, so that I can drill a new hole in there and then put a screw down in that. So again, like I mentioned earlier, here's this quick weld. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix them up, drop it in there, and let it set up and see how it turns out. All right, guys, so this is starting to tack up. It's been a couple hours. So I'm gonna leave it obviously overnight. I had a small hole here, so I went ahead and put a little in this area, and then I had a small little break here, added some in this area, clamped it up. So we'll let this all set up overnight. I will come out and check it. There's also a break here, but I'm gonna put the door back in here before I clamp it up and put the the epoxy in here to strengthen this area. So those are the repair areas I need to do on this, I don't know, whatever this fiberglass box is. So we'll like I said, let this set up overnight and come back tomorrow and check it out and see what it does. The reason the blocks of wood in here are to try to keep this shape, so that when it sets up, it doesn't suck it in or anything. And, when I go to glue this up, it maintains its shape as well. So that way, when I go to bolt all this back together, it'll work. All right, guys, so the epoxy is set up overnight. I removed most of the blue tape, and it looks like this is going to work. I took a razor blade and started trimming this down a little bit. I need to trim this down a little bit more. I overfilled it on purpose so that way I could kind of, like I said, trim it up. This turned out really good, hardened really nice, and, took care of that little bit of damage. I'm not going to make it flush, just looking to fill it up. And then, where this crack was, now it is nice and solid here. So once I put this door back in place, because there's a hinge that goes to this point, once I put it back in, then I'll epoxy this all up real good. I'll add extra into this area to kind of help fill it, and then, we'll clamp this up somehow and, let it set up overnight, and hopefully that will, take care of this part of it. So anyway, I might have to put up like a piece of aluminum. How does that go through? No, it does not. Put maybe a piece of aluminum from here to here, so that way I can bolt it down and keep this tight while that epoxy sets up here. So we'll have to do something to clamp that up. Anyway, pretty happy with the way this turned out. I'm gonna, like I said, shave this down. We'll drill a hole in it, so that way we can run the screw, this is the screw that I need to run down it. But yeah, we'll just clean this up a little more.